Good afternoon. Law Day Live is brought to you by the Chicago Bar Association. I'm attorney Ed Snyder, a member of the Chicago Bar Association. For the next half hour, we're going to be discussing legal assistance for veterans. With me today is attorney Edward Farmer. Mr. Farmer is staff attorney with the John Marshall Law School's Veterans Legal Support Center and Clinic. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Thank you. Now, let me remind the viewers that if you have any questions concerning legal assistance for veterans, please feel free to email your questions to us. Edward, let's begin with a brief overview of the purpose of the Veterans Legal Support Center and Clinic.
The Veterans Legal Support Center and Clinic is part of John Marshall Law School here in Chicago. We provide free legal assistance to veterans, including on veteran benefit issues, certain petty offenses, as well as we train attorneys on how to handle VA claims.
Mm-hmm. And how can veterans who need assistance get in contact with the Veterans Legal Support Center, and what should they expect?
Well, there's several ways to get in contact with us. One is through our website, which is www.jmls.edu/veterans. They could call us at 312-360-2656. They could email us at vlsc@jmls.edu, and we prefer they make appointments, but we will accept walk-ins at our clinic on 19 West Jackson Street here in the Loop.
Mm-hmm. But what should they expect when they visit your center?
So when the veteran either calls in or contacts us via the website or email or walks in, the intake will be performed by a trained law student. They will get their basic information as well as what legal issue they need assistance with. If it's something we don't handle here in the clinic, the law student will provide them with other pro bono resources which may be able to assist them. If it is something we handle, namely a veteran's benefit issue, then the law student will get more details on what problems they're having on their claim, as well as ask for additional documentation. This documentation includes their most recent denial from the VA and any supporting evidence they may have, such as medical records. Once we receive that documentation, the veteran is put on a waiting list, which is first come, first serve. We try to get to every veteran as quickly as possible. Once that veteran's name reaches the top of the list, it will be assigned to a law student who will then perform a legal analysis and build the evidence in the claim. The goal being ultimately to get this case in the hands of a pro bono attorney.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Now, one of the major legal issues for a veteran is veterans' benefits. So what is the most common obstacle that prevents a veteran from getting veteran benefits?
Well, there's three things a veteran needs to show before obtaining VA disability compensation benefits. One, a current disability. Two is an in-service event, injury, or disease. And three is a medical opinion linking that current disability to the in-service event, injury, or disease. In my opinion, proving the in-service event, injury, disease is the hardest part of those three requirements. And this is because many veterans wait years or even decades before applying for their benefits. Records may get lost. In 1973, the National Personnel Records Center had a major fire which destroyed 16 million records. Now, there's other ways to prove the event besides official military records, such as getting affidavits from fellow service members. But once again, if the veteran waits too long, it may be hard to get in contact with people they served with to help prove this event. Other reasons why it's difficult to prove these events is there may not be official record. For example, if the veteran was injured during combat, typically people didn't have the time or to create a record then. Lots of field medics will write notes on the veteran's arm or on the bed sheet. But once again, there are ways of proving these events, and these are the types of things that the Veterans Center can help with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, I think we have a question here. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a question from the internet. So, question is, does the center provide legal assistance to the wives and children of veterans?
Yes, we do. There's certain benefits available to not just wives, but any spouse. For example, there's something called Dependency and Indemnity Compensation, or DIC. And what this is compensation to a spouse for a veteran who has died of a service-related condition. There's also another income-based benefit called a death pension. And these are the types of things the Veterans Center helps with. As far as children, typically the only benefits they're entitled to are educational benefits, such as GI Bill. There's certain exceptions, especially in terms of Agent Orange related conditions.
Yes. You might explain what Agent Orange was all about.
Sure. Agent Orange was an herbicide they sprayed in Vietnam to kill the vegetation. And it has caused several health issues for Vietnam veterans. If a veteran has served in Vietnam and he has a condition which the VA has stated is presumed from Agent Orange, such as ischemic heart disease, diabetes, a variety of cancers, then they're entitled to compensation.
Yeah. Let's go back to the question we have. We're talking about the veterans' benefits. How does the Veterans Legal Support Center help a veteran claim these help a veteran with a benefits claim?
Okay. Well, as I said, once they reach the top of the list, they'll be assigned to a law student. The law student reviews the claim. They make sure the VA is properly applying all appropriate laws and regulations, and they'll determine what additional evidence is needed. They will then assist the veteran in obtaining this evidence. For example, if a medical opinion is needed, they may write a letter to their doctor asking them for a medical opinion. They may help order treatment records. They may help them get service records, obtain affidavits. So essentially, we help build the evidence to substantiate the veteran's claim.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, now we're in the 21st century. Women comprise approximately 12% of the military. Are there any legal issues that are particularly encountered by female veterans?
Well, female veterans probably have a lot of the same legal issues that female civilians have. Employment discrimination based on sex. Perhaps they're getting paid substantially less than their male counterparts. Family issues such as child custody is common among women, not only women veterans, but women in general. Domestic violence, and then unfortunately sexual assault is a big problem among women and women veterans. Sexual assault is also an issue when it comes to VA benefits because it's often difficult to prove the event happened. Because oftentimes the woman doesn't make an official report either because they're embarrassed, they feel like it's their fault, or they're afraid that it may happen again.
Yeah.
But once again, there's reduced evidentiary standards for proving these events under VA law.
Very interesting. Now, there are many National Guard and Reserve members who have been deployed. Do they have any certain benefit or legal issues different from the active duty military members?
Sure, absolutely. National Guardsmen and reservists essentially are part-time service members. They train 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks during the summer. The rest of the time, they live civilian lives and have civilian jobs. When they get deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan, oftentimes they have to leave behind the civilian life and these civilian jobs for sometimes years. When they return, sometimes they encounter problems like obtaining the position they had when they left, or getting paid the same as they were before they left. There are certain laws in place to help protect these types of veterans. One is called USERRA, the United States Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, and this helps these veterans obtain the job in the position and at the pay rate they had before they left, as well as prevents discrimination against reservists and National Guardsmen seeking employment. Another law to help protect these service members is SARA, the Servicemembers Civil Relief Act. So if a service member is deployed and he has to break his lease, he's allowed to do that under this law. It also keeps his credit card interest rates at a certain level, and it prevents them from having judgments obtained against them while they're on active duty.
Yep, I have another question here. Go ahead.
We have another question from the internet here. Does the center provide legal assistance to the U.S. veterans living in a foreign country?
Yes, we do. In fact, we do have a veteran right now who is living in Italy, and we communicate him via email. He sends his documents to us via email. So it is possible to represent veterans overseas.
Okay, but they do have to retain, have to be U.S. citizens?
Well,
They cannot have renounced their U.S. citizenship?
No, they haven't renounced their U.S. citizenship. They're just simply living abroad.
Yeah. Okay, and you deal with them via the internet and so on?
Yes, you could run into some problems with that, especially if the VA needs a medical opinion. Right. They may have to obtain it themselves.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, now we've talked about these disability benefits. With respect to veteran disability benefits, what would you recommend to those who are leaving military service?
Well, one thing the military does to service members who are about to leave the service is ask them if they have any sort of injuries or disabilities they're currently suffering from. Typically, these service members won't report them because if they do report them, the military will hold them back from exiting the service until they're sure they are fit to leave. I recommend they do not do this. They do disclose anything they may be suffering from because it could greatly increase their odds of obtaining compensation benefits for injuries once they leave. Another good idea is to obtain a copy of what's called your 201 file. This is your personnel record. It has your DD-214, any places you've been stationed, any awards, as well as obtain copies of your service treatment records to prove that you have treatment for certain injuries while in service. We all know the VA can lose records occasionally, so this kind of serves as protection against that. In fact, there is a program the VA has called the pre-discharge program where a service member could apply for VA benefits up to 180 days before discharge, which greatly speeds up the time in which they could be granted these benefits. So I recommend they do that as well.
Any issues in terms of the type of discharge, in terms of upgrading a discharge or something like that?
Yeah, if a service member is presented with what they call bad paper, less than honorable discharge, I would recommend consulting with a JAG officer or another lawyer before they sign this paperwork to make sure they're apprised of all their rights. It's much more difficult to go back and change the discharge than it is to get the correct discharge upon leaving.
Okay. Now, besides the Veterans benefit issues, what other legal areas does the Veterans Legal Support Center provide to veterans?
Well, we have this program called our Petty Offense Program, and what this is if a veteran commits an offense on federal or VA property, many times they're charged with what's called a petty offense. This is typically a fine. They're basically given a ticket where they must appear in front of a federal magistrate judge in federal court. Typically, these offenses are possession of alcohol, being intoxicated on VA property, disorderly conduct. Sometimes it's even smoking marijuana. It's essentially a non-jailable offense in the terms of the VA. So they have to appear in federal court, and John Marshall's Veterans Clinic assists these veterans in getting these charges deferred 6 months and eventually dismissed. We work with the U.S. Attorney's Office in conducting this agreement. At the same time, we help that veteran with any underlying social or health issues they may be having.
Now, what about family law issues, like disputes concerning divorce or child custody, something like that? Do they help out veterans in that area?
We typically don't handle family law matters at the Veterans Legal Support Center, but we have other clinics we could refer those veterans out to, including ones here at John Marshall.
Okay. How about criminal law matters?
Besides the petty offenses and any work we do with what's called Veterans Treatment Courts, we don't handle criminal law matters either.
Okay. So maybe we talked about this a little bit before, but if a veteran, say, is dismissed from service with a dishonorable discharge, does the support center, legal support center, provide any assistance with trying to get that discharge upgraded?
We do some work for discharge upgrades. Right now, the cases we take for discharge upgrades are extremely limited. We're trying to expand this area. Right now, they're essentially limited to veterans who have been discharged because of violation of the now repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, as well as some alcohol or veteran-related discharge. If we can't help them with the discharge, we could at least give them the proper application and paperwork and provide a little bit of guidance.
Okay. I think we have another email question.
Yeah, we've got it's a kind of a two-part question from the internet.
Okay.
First part is, are there other good resources for veterans to look for mental health treatment, and what are the biggest areas what's the biggest area of need for returning veterans?
I imagine he's asking if there's any other areas of treatment besides the VA.
No, I think, I don't know, maybe let me rephrase it, because the first part just asks, are there other good resources for veterans to look for mental health treatment through your services? And then, what would be the biggest area of need for returning veterans?
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, the VA is probably the best place to go if a veteran doesn't have very good insurance. If they contact the center, we may be able to get them in contact with somebody who could provide mental health treatment. And the returning veterans, two big areas of concern right now are post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as traumatic brain injury.
Yeah. Now, when you refer matters to attorneys and others, these are pro bono referrals.
That's correct.
Okay. So if you refer someone who has a criminal issue or family issue, refer them to another attorney, another attorney. Your relationship with that attorney is it's pro bono. He does not charge legal fees for this service.
Absolutely.
Do you have the same relationship with doctors or hospital facilities that you can refer them to that and they won't charge for the medical services?
We're attempting to build a network of medical professionals who will provide some pro bono medical evaluations and opinions to help substantiate veterans' claims. We also have resources of doctors who work internally with the VA, who occasionally we could call and tell them that this veteran's not getting the proper treatment he should be. Can you please get him into a certain program?
Okay, very nice. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one more that came in.
Okay.
Does the center provide legal assistance to active duty military?
We would provide assistance to active duty military. We typically don't see it. We don't see it very often. I imagine the most common way we would see it is our petty offense program. If active duty military committed a petty offense while at the VA, we could help them with that.
Particularly at the VA facility.
VA or perhaps at Great Lakes, where they also write these petty offense tickets.
Oh, I see. Okay, very good. All right. Now, what are some of the health benefit issues for the veterans who return from Iraq and Afghanistan, that are more contemporary conflicts?
Well, as I mentioned just recently, post-traumatic stress disorder is one of the signature disabilities of these veterans. This is a mental health disorder caused by exposure to a traumatic event. So maybe witnessing death, fearing for their lives, typically bring on PTSD. Some of the symptoms include avoiding memories of that situation, so the veteran may not like to watch war movies. They may socially isolate, have nightmares. And if a veteran's experiencing those types of symptoms, I highly encourage them to see someone at the VA. Traumatic brain injury is another huge problem. It's also referred to as TBI. And this is brought on by blasts, exposures to blasts while in Iraq and Afghanistan from what they call improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, or sometimes referred to as roadside bombs. And these blasts cause cognitive issues and memory problems, and oftentimes are accompanied by other disorders such as depression. So the VA has a good screening process to determine if a veteran has TBI. So once again, I would encourage them to see their local VA and ask to be screened for this condition.
Okay, very interesting. Any other questions?
Yeah, I actually had one more that just came in. Under what circumstances will the center not provide legal assistance to a veteran?
As discussed before, we typically are limited to VA benefit issues. The other issues are referred out. When it comes to benefit issues, we like the veteran to have already applied and received a decision, which is still within the appeal time frame. Typically, this is a year. If they haven't applied yet, please go see your local veteran service officers, such as AMVETS or the VFW or American Legion. They could assist with the initial paperwork. And then if you get an adverse decision, please come see us, and we could assist you with the appeal.
Very interesting. Okay. And that any more email questions?
We got actually one that just came in.
Okay.
Just refreshed my page. Question is, can you refresh us on what the United States Reemployment Act does?
I believe he's referring to USERRA, the United States Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, that it protects veterans from losing their jobs when they are deployed overseas. So if they have to leave their National Guardsmen and reservists have to leave their job because of deployment, when they return, the employer can't tell them, no, you can't have your job back. They also have to put them in the same position or a similar position they were in as well as pay them the same as before they left. It also prevents employers from potential employers from discriminating against those in National Guard or reservists. It became a problem that lots of employers would refuse to hire National Guardsmen or reservists knowing they would be deployed and would have to leave for a certain amount of time. That is now a violation of USERRA.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, good. Well, listen, how could our viewers, it's very clear that the Veterans Legal Service Center and Clinic have been very helpful. How could our viewers help the Veterans Legal Support Center's mission?
Well, please spread the word about the free legal assistance we provide to veterans. We try to help as many veterans as possible, but I'm sure there's some who don't know about our free services. We'd rather them come to us than have to pay someone to help them. Also, if there's any attorneys out there, we could use more pro bono attorneys assisting us with the veterans' appeals cases. And lastly, we are seeking out medical professionals who could help us with pro bono examinations and opinions. And if anyone has questions, feel free to email me at efarmer@jmls.edu.
Very good. Well, I think that's it. I want to thank Attorney Edward Farmer for giving us some very useful information concerning opportunities for legal assistance for veterans. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure.
Also want to thank you for watching this program brought to you by the Chicago Bar Association. Now, our next Law Day Live webcast is tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. and concerns Social Security. So I hope you'll be able to see the current issues on Social Security and the future of Social Security. Thank you again for joining us, and have a pleasant afternoon.